everybody. All right, I've been debating about this talk for a little while. It was something at first I wasn't even going to mess with. I was like, I don't want to talk about Snaffle Bits because it's like this heated thing when I see people talking about it online. But the more I thought about it, and it kind of keeps entering my mind, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm sorry if I disagree with somebody out there, or I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not putting anybody down. I just want to share my thoughts on this and give everybody something to think about when we make these blanket statements about these Snaffle Bits. So one, I am an advocate of Snaffle Bits. Started every horse I've ever started in a Snaffle Bit. And I know there's lots of other ways to start them, but that's how I grew up. Started with the Pony Club, the English thing. We use Snaffle Bits. In fact, I have one that has stuck with me my entire life. This D-ring snaffle right here has started everything, almost every single horse I've ever started in my life. This was used by my parents, and somehow through my moves and the things I've done in life, this is one thing that I've never lost. I have no idea how, but I have it still. Nice little simple copper mouth D-ring snaffle. All right, I've used that a ton. However, I started horses in those with the idea that as they get more and more sensitive and understand to give to pressure, I move them up to something that has a few more pressure points that allows me to use a little less, and I can be a little bit more specific and discreet with my cues if I've got a few more pressure points, like a chin strap maybe, or you've got your shanks. And the purchase length and the shank length will determine how much extra mechanical advantage you're getting out of that bit. So I think we can all agree that a Snaffle Bit is a 1-to-1 mechanical. There is no mechanical advantage. It's a 1-to-1 ratio on power. Whatever I put into it is exactly what that horse is feeling in its face. I'll also say that there's people that say, oh, a Snaffle Bit can be the cruelest bit in the world if you don't know how to use it right. Okay, you can be cruel with any bit, but this thing in itself, again, is only going to apply as much pressure as you can apply to it. There's no leverage. There's no mechanical advantage to this Snaffle Bit, which is nice for teaching horses how to give to pressure. It's simple. There's a simple direction to move away from the pressure, to move with it, whatever it might be. Junior horses are 4 years and under, so you can ride two-handed with those Snaffle Bits, Bozels, whatever, in the world that I grew up in. After that, it's just assumed that your horse is now getting seasoned enough, trained enough, broke enough, whatever you want to call it, advanced enough to move to single hand. And with that, you want to move to a shank bit. I'm not saying everybody has to move to a shank bit. That's one of those blanket statements that I hate. I know people and ride with people who have very sensitive horses, and they've never felt the need to move out of what they're using, and they find it easier when, guiding through obstacles. They can grab right onto that Snaffle Bit. You're not going to hurt your horse. So you're guiding them, putting them through waterways or over things or whatever, and that's great. People jump and hunt seat events and all that, and it's great because it's a heavy contact. If it's a heavier contact type of equestrian sport, you don't want all that leverage. But I'll also mention that racehorses, usually you see their mouth pulled back and they're in a Snaffle Bit, because you can put a ton of pressure on one and it's really not applying any more pressure, than what your fingers can exert or your arms can exert. So for me, I'm not a very big person, and I kind of think, well, I shouldn't have to move out of the Snaffle Bit if, I can control everything here. I can in an arena. What I can't account for are things that are going to happen out on the trail, things that might spook them, horses that might be spooky, who knows what it might be. Things that might get stuck on you, branch hooking you, whatever. I want the ability with my strength to be able to put enough pressure that animal is going to think of me before it's thinking about running off and saving itself. And I can say from personal experience, I can't stop, at least 2 mules, I can't stop in a Snaffle Bit when things go crazy. And people might want to say, well, your animal's not trained enough. You're probably not wrong about that, but nonetheless, I want to go out and ride sometimes. So in order for me to prevent those things, I need to increase my mechanical advantage. Not that I'm hard on them all the time. I can leave my reins draped, but when I need it, it's there. So the idea that if you've moved out of the Snaffle Bit, it's because you've missed something. You have a hole in your training. You should never need to move on beyond that. I think they're missing the point that there's a different goal to going one-handed with a shanked bit. You're asking for, lighter cues, less obvious cues, smaller requests, if you want to say, or less pressure, and you're getting the same response. I want a light animal. I want to not have to pull them around. I don't want that. I want them to be really light and responsive and sensitive. And I can keep that with a very minimal shanked bit. Sure, stay in a Snaffle Bit if it works for your horse, but keep in mind, not everybody should probably be staying in a Snaffle Bit. people that are 3 times my size can probably turn a decent sized animal around who's spooking with a snaffle bit. I cannot. Probably people smaller than me cannot. So keep that in mind when you're suggesting that. And, you know, I just think don't make the blanket statements. Don't ridicule. Don't point fingers at people who are moving on from the snaffle bit. It maybe has a whole lot of different meaning than to all of you than it does to me. But like I said, it's a starter bit because it's simplicity and the direct pull. I want more than that at some point. I want a more broke, more mature, more sensitive, responsive animal. And to me, I can get that very easily just by adding a little bit of more pressure so they feel that rein on the neck before it goes to their mouth. I mean, all those little things they anticipate now, you pick up, they feel the reins on their neck and their head already comes down. Well, that's because my reins are together and I'm riding one-handed. So anyway, I'm sorry. I know that's probably going to bring on some people that are like really disagreeing with me. And I know lots of reputable trainers that I completely respect that stay in the snaffle bits for really long times or ever with some animals. Fine. I'm not saying don't do that, but I just see people feeling pressured to go to something where they don't have the control that they need because they think it's the way to go and that they feel like, oh, my horse is not broke if I'm moving on, so I need to go back. And you might be putting those people in a dangerous situation if it is an animal that might have in the past run through a bit, if they don't have the strength to stop that animal with a snaffle bit. Or they open their mouth and the bit comes through their mouth. Have you ever seen that? When the whole bridle moves? Seen that? So there's a lot of little things that can go wrong. So just be careful what I think. Be careful when you're suggesting that everybody needs to stay in the snaffle bit or move back to that. It's a great training bit. It's not a finished horse bit in my mind. That's how I've learned. So anyway, I'm sticking to that and hope I didn't offend, but something to think about when choosing your bits. So thanks. Have a good evening. Bye.